Hey everyone, my name is Jennifer Woods, and as those who follow me might be aware, I started off the month with an R.L. Stine novel, and that is how I will end the month, with more R.L. Stine. This time, a top 10 list. There have been many TV movies that have been made out of young adult 80s and 90s thrillers over the years. There was The Dollhouse Murders by Betty Wren Wright that was turned into a TV movie also known under the alternate title of Secrets in the Attic in 1992. There was The Face on the Milk Carton, a book by Caroline B. Cooney that was turned into a TV movie starring Kelly Martin in 1995. That was the first movie I reviewed on this channel. I've made a lot of changes since then, so it will probably be unrecognizable to those who watch my videos now. Maybe one day I will redo that video. Fall into Darkness by Christopher Pike was made into a TV movie starring Tatiana Ali and Jonathan Brandis in 1996. I also did a review on that a few months ago. The Stranger with My Face by Lois Duncan was made into a TV movie in 2009, starring Catherine Hicks, and Killing Mr. Griffin by Lois Duncan was made into a TV movie in 1997. The movie stars Amy Jo Johnson. Many remember her from the Power Rangers, but I remember her from a movie I was forced to watch in health class called Perfect Body, about a gymnast with an eating disorder. The book is actually from 1978, but Lois Duncan was one of the authors I read as a kid in the 90s. She wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer, which became a feature film when I was in high school. There were also several V.C. Andrews novels from the late 70s through the mid to late 90s that were made into Lifetime movies in the past decade. Many of these movies have been a long time coming. And R.L. Stine's The Prom Queen will be released to Netflix sometime in the near future. I am anxiously anticipating that. So today I'm going to discuss some other books by R.L. Stine that I would love to see turned into movies as well. I have used magic media via Canva in order to reimagine and breathe new life into these book covers. The images are AI generated based on my prompts. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so that you don't miss any of my new content. I post at least once a week. And I have a group on Facebook called Lifetime Movie Channel Fan Page, so please check that out as well. I've also released a book this year called Deadly Guide, The Search for the Killer Made-for-TV Thriller, as both an ebook and a paperback on the Barnes & Noble website. It was published under Jennifer Rainier Woods. It is a guide to hundreds of TV movie classics from the early 90s. So let's begin. One of the first R.L. Stine books I remember reading is The Babysitter 2. It's not a Fear Street book, it's outside of the Fear Street series. In the sequel, the main character Jenny was in therapy and was taking a new babysitting job after a traumatic experience with the last one where she received frightening prank calls that didn't turn out to be a prank after all. And I won't say anything more because while I spoiled the twist at the end of the first one for myself by reading the second one first, I don't want to do that to you. I recommend the entire series, though I didn't care for the fourth one quite so much. I love the original covers, they're very nostalgic. Stay far away from the reissues. When I was a kid, I considered Jenny's boyfriend Cal to be my book boyfriend. He makes his first appearance at a record store in the second book. The third book has a crazy twist you might either love or hate. The second book's ending felt a little forced in comparison to the first and third ones, but the second one is still a favorite of mine because it was what introduced me to the series. And it's also what introduced me to the word quarry, as in rock quarry. I'd never heard of a rock quarry before, and there's a memorable scene that takes place at a rock quarry in the second book. When I was in 7th grade, I was obsessed with the first evil in the Cheerleader saga. I also loved the second evil, the third evil, and the new evil, but for some reason it was the first book in the Cheerleaders series that really spoke to me, and I have to say this was a series that I'm pretty sure I did read in the correct order. I seem to have this memory of always reading books out of order, but I can only remember doing that with The Babysitter, so maybe that's a false memory. You definitely want to read this series in the correct order so as not to spoil anything for yourself. The saga begins with two sisters transferring to a new school and elbowing their way onto the cheer squad because they're just so fantastic that it's hard to hold them back. Then a bus accident in a graveyard happens on the way to a game, and an ancient evil spirit is unleashed. The first book features the most memorable death scene I've come across in Fear Street history. This series reminds me a lot of Friday the 13th. They keep defeating the evil, but it just keeps coming back, hopping around from one cheerleader's body to the next. So next up on my list is Truth or Dare, and this is the first one so far that has not been part of its own series, outside of the Fear Street series. They're all part of this, actually, the Babysitter is not part of the Fear Street series, but the Cheerleaders is part of the Fear Street series. Truth or Dare is part of the Fear Street series, but other than that, it's not a series, it's just a standalone within the Fear Street world. So, for Truth or Dare, April and her friends are on a ski vacation at Dara Harker's lodge. They decide to play a game of Truth or Dare, and April hints at a secret that she probably should have just kept to herself. One of the friends at the lodge feels threatened by the revelation that April knows something she shouldn't, and this person is now determined to stop at nothing, including murder, to make sure that April's secret and this person's secret stays hidden. The plotline is very by the numbers, and yet for some reason it remains a favorite of mine. Maybe because the setting just seems so cozy. Well, aside from the fact that an axe-wielding mad person is on the loose. I just like the idea of being at a ski lodge, even though I don't like skiing in real life. Something about it just feels very cozy. So I like this book. I would probably rank it number 3 on my top R.L. Stine books. I want to add that I also really like the cover of Truth or Dare. I think the depiction of April was really good. That's, exactly how I would picture her. Maybe because that's how I saw her portrayed, so that's how I envisioned her when I was reading the book. That being said, though, the depiction of Jenny, I think, is a way off. I do not think that's at all how R.L. Stine envisioned her. I think that's just a case of the artist not really giving a flip and just making her look however they wanted her to look, but not at all like how she was portrayed in the book. So this cover has its positives and its negatives. Overall, I think it's a very memorable cover for me. Ski weekend. While stuck in a snowstorm on their way home from a ski weekend, some kids end up spending the night at the house of a strange man and woman. Also with them is a guy named Red, who the main character Ariel met at the ski lodge earlier. It seems like the perfect safe haven at first, but the cozy feeling doesn't last for long. Just who is this couple, and what have the kids gotten themselves into now? Once again, I just love the wintry setting, so that's why this made my list. The Mind Reader. Ellie Anderson has psychic visions. They can be both a blessing and a curse. One day, while foolishly walking her dog in the Fear Street woods, clear sign she's new to town, her dog and the visions help lead her to the body of her friend's missing sister Melinda. And now everybody wants to know who killed the teen. This has all started happening around the time Ellie befriends a mysterious young man with a secret. It's a whodunit with a supernatural angle and an interesting twist in the end. And Ellie has a little bit of a backstory. Her mother died tragically when she was very young, and she is haunted by visions related to that death. On the cover of the book, Melinda looks a lot like Jessica Alba. The Mind Reader was released about a month after the first episode of Alex Mack aired. Could it be possible that the cover artist was inspired by a photo of the young actress? I'm not sure how long it took to design the cover before the book's release, but it just seems like interesting timing. Broken Hearts. After her fraternal twin sister is seriously injured in a horse riding accident, Josie starts getting threatening valentines. Turns out they are not just someone's idea of a joke. She ends up dead. A year later, her friend Melissa starts getting creepy valentines cards as well. Does Josie's killer want her dead as well? This one is a super chiller, meaning it's longer than the typical Fear Street book. I reread this one as an adult and had forgotten who the killer was. It only came back to me as I was getting to the end. That's the great thing about rereading these books years later. There are still surprises in store. The Stepsister. Emily has a traumatic past. Her father died in a tragic accident, and now her mother has remarried. When Emily finds out that not only will she be getting a pretty blonde stepsister named Jessie, but that she will also be sharing a room with her, she is not pleased at all. Emily soon finds out that Jessie has a secret that she's been writing about in her diary. Something about a dead girl named Jolie. Sounds sinister. I read this before Angelina Jolie hit it big. It was the first time I'd ever heard that name Jolie. It means pretty in French. Just be warned, an animal dies in this. Perhaps Stine's publisher warned him he had to tone down the killing of Shadyside students, so he decided that a pet had to go instead. Oh, and here's a fun fact for you. I'm pretty sure the song Pump Up the Jam by Technotronic is referenced in this book during a school dance. I think there's a lyric of that song referenced in the book. Technotronic was a band I loved in like 1990, 1991-ish. Sunburn. When Claudia is invited to spend some time at a friend's beach house, she thinks it will be a blast, hanging out in the sun and catching up on old times. A little summer camp reunion for the 4 former bunkmates. Something I've learned from watching far too many horror movies and reading far too many horror books is that such reunions never end well. And also, any mention at all of summer camp is a red flag that someone is either going to die, or else someone already has, and revenge is on the agenda. So watch out. This book also has a great twist at the end. Switched. Everything's going wrong for Nicole. She's struggling in school, and her boyfriend David just broke up with her unexpectedly. So she's more than willing to trade lives with her best friend Lucy when the opportunity comes up, as such opportunities do from time to time in fiction. It's a Freaky Friday kind of scenario. Little does Nicole know that she might just have made a deal with the devil. There's a reason why Lucy was eager to switch places, and now Nicole is just effed around and found out. This book has a really cool twist that reminds me a lot of a book by Lauren Oliver that came out years and years later. So I wonder if Lauren Oliver read this book when she was younger. There is also a movie that came out years after the Stine book that had a similar twist as well, but I won't say what the name of the movie is in order to avoid any potential spoilers. The face. Martha doesn't know what the heck is wrong with her. She keeps drawing the face of some strange boy. If only she understood why. But she's gone through a horrible trauma, and there's a huge hole where her memory should be. That's too bad, because someone out there has not forgotten why they want her dead. And so now she's in a race against time to save her own life, and she doesn't have the faintest idea why someone hates her so much to wish such an awful fate on her. This was one of the later Fear Street books that I read. I wouldn't say the Fear Street books got better over the years, but it's still a fond memory for me. I can't even say why I liked it so much. I don't usually care for amnesia stories. I found the premise of the mystery boy intriguing, and the way he died was absolutely brutal, so be prepared. So there you have it. Those are 10 R.L. Stine books that I'd love to see turned into TV movies, or just movies in general. They're not necessarily the only R.L. Stine books I love, but they're some of the top ones. And they'd make excellent movies. And you have to admit, they are a lot like some of the TV movies you've seen on Lifetime. For instance, how many movies out there have there been about cheerleaders? Or evil stepsisters? So, yeah, I think that these are definitely doable. They may need a modern twist, of course. I hope that they're not completely butchered, but at this time, there's no talk of making these specific books into movies anyway, so it's just wishful thinking. But there you have it. That's all I have for you today. Have a great day and take care.